we go. Questions? Raise your hand. Brian.
Mark, I realize Arizona State's O-line's a little beat up, but what was it like watching Utah's defensive line on that film? And can you describe, what Hunter Demick's like as an opponent?
Relentless, I think, is the best word to describe him. I love watching that guy play. Not against us, but I love watching him on film. Just a physical guy, and just never stops. I mean, he gets doubled a lot. He gets cut, and then whether it's a back cutting him, a tight end cutting him, and somebody else helping out on him, and he just never stops. But yeah, they did a great job of changing up their pressure. Again, they're another team that brings it from everywhere. And then very sound on the back end, part man, part zone, but very fundamentally sound, very, very good defensive football team.
Brian.
Just a quick follow-up to that.
Since Crosby went out, you've had some cohesion with your offensive line. Are you seeing progression there week to week? And was last week one of their better weeks, at least running the ball?
It's been okay. That's kind of the byproduct, or the thing that's happened, is every guy has kind of picked his game to have a kind of a freshman lack of confidence. And so when one guy, not chooses to do that, but that occurs, it's tough sledding for either the quarterback or the running back, or just the rhythm and the cohesion. But the communication was better. Still, we weren't 100% by any stretch. But yeah, they're collectively getting better. Absolutely.
The retirement and then unretirement of Joe Williams, and then he has over 100 yards in every game, sometimes 300 yards in a game. Have you ever seen anything like that, like a player retiring in week 3 or week 2 or whatever it was, coming back, and then not only coming back but playing as well as he has?
No, I mean we've had some guys that have hung it up. I want to get the NCAA paperwork on that kid. He's going to make sure he filled out all the right stuff, but he is a stud. We had a situation when I was at Arizona State. We had a bunch of guys get hurt, and we had tight ends. We had like one true tailback. We had tight ends in there and receivers and that kind of a deal. And but yeah, he is extremely productive. And I don't know if it was a depth chart thing or all the things that went into his retirement. But I wish he would have stayed retired.
Talking with players this week, they said they feel like they're not able to get out to that quick start. And then as you see against Stanford, opponent kind of takes control, 14 unanswered points. What do you guys work on in practice to try to get them out to score on that first drive like you guys were able to do a few weeks ago?
We've changed it up. We've had today we did basically 40 seconds left in the game, urgent type of scenario right off the bat. Last week we did it was 4th and goal for the ball game, 3rd and inches with the Stanford, O-line package one other day. Just trying to change it up and find that button to again create that urgency. I thought part of it, again last week we had a drop ball on the first 3rd down that's really, we had a great situation there, great ball, and then a couple other things that were self-inflicted penalties, another drop later in that first half. But you don't know if that's anxiety or what. But it's different. It's different things every time. It's not one thing.
Last week you mentioned how important the scout team was for preparing for Stanford. What different players on the scout team have you utilized this week to help prepare for Utah?
Yeah, I thought it's funny you bring that up. I thought the defensive line today was really good as a scout team, and that's obviously big. Those guys create so much havoc on their defense. Jeff Lockey's done a phenomenal job all year, not only as a quarterback, but just as a leader of the offensive unit, and really getting those guys excited and playing those roles. And so yeah, those guys are vital.
On Sunday, you said that you'd find out who's with you and maybe who's checked out with no bowl game to play. How has practice been the last 2 days, and maybe the intensity of it?
Today was very intense. Today was very physical. We've challenged everybody in a few different ways, but it was very physical. Yesterday, we did a little bit more of a mental day. Obviously had a couple things to clean up from the game in the weekend, and the rest of it was all mental.
Kind of off that, yesterday, Coach Neal was talking about how he wants to try to score the upset this weekend at Utah. Is maybe an underdog role something you use as motivation for your team to? I mean, I imagine you're kind of trying to use a couple different things to motivate your team to go out and get a win the way that this season's gone.
Haven't directly said underdog or that kind, really anything in that vein. We need to play, just play together, play better, play that complementary football that we talked about a little bit on the weekend. And, but yeah, whatever can stoke their fire, if that gets the defensive backs ready to go, or it's, the defense to play with a chip on their shoulder. Great.
What qualifies as like a more mental day than your typical Monday?
More just walk through stuff. We had some stuff to again, kind of at this part of the season, you're doing that in general, and then with the attrition that we've had, just less hitting, less running, more when we do the correct and review kind of stuff from the previous game, more of a walk and talk type of thing. At the beginning of the season, that's a little bit more full speed. And then the same thing as we prepared and flipped it toward Utah, a little bit more walkthrough mode than full speed yesterday.
You guys have always been pretty light on the hitting, obviously with the NCAA cutting back some of that, and Pac-12 too. But even with all the attrition, do you guys cut back even more? I mean, how much even wrap-up stuff are you even doing at this point?
Yeah, that's the absolute double-edged sword. Is you have to tackle, you have to be physical, you have to teach it. Obviously to be safe, number one, to be effective, number two, and then you have to balance it with collisions and all the wear and tear that on a body at this point in the season is significant, and you have to be aware of that.
Did you cut back at all from what you normally would, given all the injuries, or is it about the same?
It's probably about the same. Yeah, maybe a little bit lighter.
Talking with both Don Pelham and Steve Greatwood, they said they still want to see a complete game in one of these last two games of the season. That's kind of what would make the season a success in their eyes. What barriers do you think are stopping you guys from getting to that complete game?
I think, there's a lot of things that we've had hiccups in various phases of the team or phases of the game. I think the biggest thing is just the confidence, going out and just absolutely cutting it loose and not worrying about any sort of negative outcome. There's so many guys that are just hesitant. And again, like we talked about going into last week, if you're hesitant on a power play, McCaffrey's going to go 50, and that happened. We misfit it and they're gone. Offensive guys of just playing together, playing with urgency and not hoping something happens or waiting for somebody else to make a play, or whether the defense waiting for the offense or the offense waiting for the special, all those things. There's certain fragments of guys that you can just see aren't 100% confident, and that's you can't fake that. You can't simulate that. The only way that happens is in training and getting your confidence through true preparation, seeing yourself do it, seeing your teammates do it, and repeating it.
What do you remember about that Utah game here last year, and will you revisit that with guys this week?
Well, guys have certainly brought that up on their own. Not a fun night. A bunch of stuff. Again, that's a perfect perfect storm of we kind of let one play get away on defense, and Vernon was left, and that I'd like to do a psychological experiment on the late part of that second quarter onward. But again, hopefully we've learned from it.
Going back 2 years to the Utah game, Pharaoh can't talk this week because he obviously left the game injured, but do you sense any kind of emotion from him going back to Salt Lake City after obviously what happened?
I'm sure he has to have that. I haven't directly had that conversation, but yeah, that was a physical night. A bunch of guys on their team, a bunch of guys on our team had to leave the game, and I'm sure that there has to be some trepidation, some emotion, some whatever.
been asking several players about this, but the last couple weeks there's been some pretty highly charged incidents of blackface on campus, and a lot of players are saying within the locker room it's been something that's been talked about quite a bit, and people are pretty upset about it. I wasn't sure, as a coach, you guys kind of refer to yourself as educators. Is that something you try to have a conversation with players these last 2 weeks, or do you let that stay in the locker room?
Yeah, I think you talk, again, that's a great part about football is it's the ultimate meritocracy. It doesn't matter what color you are, how rich you are, how poor you are, anything about your background. It's what can you bring to the table for our team. And those things, I think, society, and obviously with the election and all the things and hyperbole that has gone on there, those are great things to bring up and talk about, and then again, how they affect our team. But yeah, we talked about, some of those things, not specifically that incident, but, I think again, it's what makes football great, and what makes that so rare, probably in society.
Anything else? Okay.
Thanks.